Hello and welcome to Monday Motivation. Today I want to talk about learning curves. It's something all horses do, go through these sort of learning curves, and it's quite motivating when we remember that, because it can be a little bit disheartening sometimes when we forget it. So for example, you might go out and teach a really good lesson on your horse and think, oh, that's great, that horse really understands that, that's fine, we'll move on to the next thing. Then you come out the next day and the horse seems to know nothing. Now, what happens is the horse, when you first start, the horse knows nothing. So the horse is at this level. And then as you go along, the horse, for the first few times, gets a bit lucky, maybe gets the answer right. So it goes up to here and you think, oh, that's good, the horse knows it. But the horse is going to go through these phases where it gets worse and then it gets better and then it gets worse. And until you've ridden those waves, you're not actually going to have a solid lesson there. So sometimes if you go out and you teach something and basically the horse gets lucky and hasn't actually learned the lesson, then when you do come back the next day, you actually find yourself right in the bottom of that learning curve and you think the horse knows nothing. And I think that's, hello Sandra, I think that can be really disheartening, because we think, oh no, I thought I'd taught this and I thought the horse knew this. You either say stupid me or stupid horse. Either one is not going to help you. Don't go there. Just say, oh, okay, well, maybe I put the horse away when it was going through a bad patch and maybe I should have kept going. It's interesting because all horses learn at different paces. And I always think, even still today, having learned about learning curves many, many years ago, I still sort of think when I get two horses that are at the same level, I think, oh, this will be great because I can do the same thing with both horses every day. So they'll both progress along and I can be riding shoulder control by next week. And then the week after that, we can get the canter work done. And I always think this, I always set up with this great plan to have everybody working in the same stream. And of course, before the end of day one, I've got two streams of horses because one can do it and one isn't halfway there. One is still going through these terrible learning curves of the most basic training, and the other one's thinking, oh yeah, look, I can do this, let's get on to canter half pass. And I'm going, oh my goodness. And I have two like that at the moment. I'm working one of them, Romeo, which is the Frisian gelding, and he's making a series of articles for Horses and People magazine, and this is Romeo being broken to saddle. And so that was great, and I pretty much started Jazz at the same time, although he'd already had a couple of rides, but he was a bit further on. But given that I'd spent so much time with Romeo, I thought we could probably put them into the same stream. And Romeo is still standing at the mounting block and terrified when I get on, and Jazz is so relaxed and it's just so different. And I have one here and one here, and this one keeps getting better really fast and this one gets better so slowly. He actually reminds me of the Brumby I had. And I remember thinking about the Brumby that I had to actually progress by touching this horse. It took me a long time to touch him, but when I finally did, progress by millimeter. So each day I would get like a little bit further down the horse from its nose. And that was an amazing experience for me because I'd never known anything like it. And it was only one Brumby out of a number that I dealt with, and I think it had had some pretty poor past experiences of being caught in the wild. But it is incredible how different they all are, and I think we really do need to remember that. So the next time you go to say, oh, stupid horse, why doesn't it know that already? Just remember that it probably is going through a learning curve, or perhaps it is just not as clever as its paddock mate. And that's the other thing, that I'm working with these two horses, and the Lusitano is very clever and he picks things up really, really fast. The difference in the ride from one day to the next is amazing, and he takes things on board. You can feel the difference, a huge difference from one day to the next, whereas the Frisian, it's almost like you have to go back to halfway through the day before and redress that, and then hopefully you can move on a bit. It's like my husband used to always say, we used to go skiing for at least 2 weeks a year, and I didn't really like skiing. I wanted to ride a horse, but he didn't want to go horse riding. So he used to have to drag me skiing, and he'd explain why it was 2 weeks a year. I mean, imagine going horse riding 2 weeks a year. It'd be much more fun. But anyway, I couldn't convince him of that. And the reason you go skiing for 2 weeks a year is that you spend your first week catching up to where you finished last week. And so that means in the second week, you can progress. And that actually makes sense. And I think my Frisian is a bit like the skiing 2 weeks a year. For the first half of the next day's lesson, you have to catch up with what you learned the day before. And then the second half of the lesson, you can progress. Whereas the Lusitano, it's like, oh yeah, I know what we did yesterday. Let's not go there again. What are you teaching me today? which is a lot of fun as well. They're both fun. But we need to be aware that all, horses have these different needs. And if we can be aware of that, we're going to be much less frustrated when we go in, because it can be quite frustrating if you feel that you're teaching things and you feel that your horse is understanding them, then you come out the next day and it doesn't seem to have it can be quite frustrating. So you need to step back and say, okay, well, that was quite solid. Let's go over that again and see if perhaps that horse was in one of those learning curves and try and make it easier for the horse. Whatever makes it easier for the horse makes it easier for us, and it develops a much more willing partner in the end of the day as well. So do think about that. Do think about also how you can break it down to really minimize these learning curves, because if the horse gets it right by accident, let's say you're teaching trailer loading, and quite often you'll go to teach trailer loading with a young horse and it just walks straight on. And that's actually really bad, because with trailer loading, you want to teach getting on and getting off at the same time, because usually horses, certainly horses that run off backwards, it's the getting off that's difficult, and it's the getting off that they have a problem with. So you want to teach both things at the same time. So if you go up to the trailer and your horse walks straight on, you've just lost that opportunity to teach on and off. And it would be easy to make a mistake and think, oh, my horse knows this, that's fine, put him away. And you come out tomorrow and the horse goes, oh, the trailer, oh no, I didn't like getting off that wasn't much fun, not going on today. And so you missed that opportunity to train the horse because you didn't break it down. So I would actually, in that situation, stop the young horse from going on the trailer and work through that lesson from start to finish, so that you do the 1 foot on, 1 foot off, 2 feet on, 2 feet off, 3 feet on, and so on, until your horse is up at the front of the trailer, standing relaxed until it's asked to back off. And that way you've broken it down for the horse and you've allowed the horse to learn all the steps in there. If you don't do that, there's a big hole in your training, and a hole in your training is always going to come and bite you on the bottom, I'm afraid. So, if you can break it down even more for the horse, then do so. But do be aware of those times, especially at the beginning of a lesson, and something that should be quite complicated, like trailer loading, is actually quite complicated because it's a very big horse and a very small trailer. Do be aware that you will end up with a hole in your training, and your horse might just get lucky the first few times. So don't not train something in a sort of systematic way just because you got lucky. Otherwise, you're going to find these learning curves do come and bite you in the bottom. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow with Tuesday training. So we're coming from inside the Kandoo Equine training. I look forward to seeing you then. Bye.